Well, hello and welcome. You're watching India Fights Back with me, Rajat Kane. The union government or the centre has advised all the states and union territories to conduct zero prevalence surveys in consultation with ICMR to generate district level data. Now, this will help in formulating localized public health response measures and go a long way to contain the COVID 19 spread. As per the latest Zero survey, 40 crore population of this country, which roughly translates to around say one third of population, is still vulnerable to COVID-19 infection. So, how will this Zero survey help us, and what further we need to do to contain this spread? To discuss further on this issue, we joined with the panel of guests. Dr. E. Venkata Rao, member, Odisha State Advisory Committee. Many thanks, Dr. Rao, for joining us. And Dr. Raman Gangadhar, he is member of National Task Force for COVID-19 and also CG Pandit National Chair, ICMR. Many thanks, Dr. Ganga Khedkar, sir, for being part of the show. Let me start with you, Dr. Rao. If we talk about the state-wise spread of the disease, and as we are seeing that there are certain states which are still reporting high numbers, whereas there are some states which have been successful in curbing the numbers, how important are these zero surveys?
See, one important thing I would like to highlight here is zero survey, what exactly it speaks about. When any infection, any virus or a bacteria, whenever it infects a human being, our body responds back with production of defense mechanism, what we call it as antibodies. In our blood, if the blood is tested against a specific pathogen, then our antibodies will be telling us about the seroprevalence, or how much is the serological protection or the defense ability is there in our body. Now, this serosurveillance zero survey tells us that in the last 1 to 3 weeks back, has really wrong or right within our body. Like our antibodies have been produced. To what extent they are protected, that reflection, that information is given by zero surveys. Now we have no clue exactly that what population or what proportion of the population is infected, either naturally or has been vaccinated and produced the antibodies. Now, zero survey will tell us that yes, a chunk of the population, if it is 60%, that means 60% of the population in a particular community is protected against that particular disease. Unless we know that, we will not come to know how the disease is transmitted in the community, or how our protection levels are there achieved following the vaccination. Because we have already, there has been accepted level that at least 60 to 70% of the population, until they are protected, the transmission is likely to continue. Now, survey report will tell us that yes, have we reached it? So that is a major important thing, that how the vaccination program in future has to run the course, that will be determined, or how the unlock mechanisms have to be done, that will be determined by these zero surveys. So this is very essential at this stage, when almost like 1/3 of the country's population have been vaccinated.
That's really important. Many thanks, Dr. Rao, for discussing the fundamental and of course your opening remarks. Just stay on. We have Dr. Ganga Khedkar here as well. So discussing zero survey, two things are quite clear. First, it will give you a definitive, at least a suggestive picture of how our vaccination program must proceed, and secondly, what steps states and UTs need to take in terms of unlocking or removing restrictions. We have seen in last week per se, several states have opened up. I mean, I know there are certain reasons of why they've opened up, but at least we can discuss caveats, like what precautions should be taken at the earliest now.
I think there are few things which we have to understand when we interpret the data that tends to come from the seroprevalence survey. If you look at the figures that have emerged, they are 67% for average figure for entire country.
Mm-hmm.
But the sample size that was calculated was not adequate to talk about a particular state.
Absolutely,
And we have
certainly.
picked up different districts. So
Mm-hmm.
essentially, what will happen if whatever figure is coming for the state should not misinterpret that figure, neither should they assume that 67% of the population in even their own states is actually protected to some extent, right? Now, given that fact, what is important for us to understand that if the states are to follow a policy to lift the lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
what they must essentially have is a decentralized approach. The center as well as the state must have a decentralized approach. And what do you mean by decentralized approach? You cannot you cannot issue a guideline saying all the schools in the state will be open from date X. No,
Hmm.
you have to look at the local epidemiology within that district and then take that decision. Now,
Right.
majority of these states have already undertaken certain sero surveys, which may be high quality sero surveys or their quality is perhaps not much known in terms of the sampling design. And therefore, the center has advised them that it would be prudent to use the protocol that has been developed by the Indian Council of Medical Research and try to do the statewide survey giving appropriate allocations for the districts. And once you know that, you have to draw a vulnerability map that would be based on the vaccine coverage that that particular district tends to have, what proportion of people above the age of 45 years they are actually vaccinated at this time point, do they have availability of healthcare infrastructure in terms of hospital beds, or for that matter even the availability of oxygen, which
Mm-hmm.
should be treated as adequate if the district tends to come out as highly vulnerable. One must remember that there is huge variation in whatever has been estimated at state level. If you look at Madhya Pradesh has almost three-fourths of the population
Right.
that is exposed. Whereas you look at Maharashtra and Kerala, that figure tends to drop down to close to about 45% or so.
Mm-hmm.
And that is perhaps the reflection as to why the numbers are increasing in Maharashtra and Kerala. Now, what does it essentially mean? If non-pharmacological interventions are also
Mm-hmm.
effective,
Right.
if vaccine is also going to remain protective, when you start lifting it up, you need to have a calibrated response,
Mm-hmm.
and the response has to be taken at district level based on the local epidemiology, and therefore all states have been advised by the center used similar kind of a protocol and try to look at different figures that emerge and take the decision how lockdown should be lifted.
Right, right. Yeah. Dr. E. Venkata Rao, as if we further study the zero surveys, or at least you have a very simplistic sort of understanding of it, the basic thing that we usually you're often asked is the ones who have been found to develop antibodies against COVID-19 in these surveys, are they safe? What do you say? Are they safe? I mean, they have this firewall against COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, little tricky question for the moment,
Mm-hmm.
because what happens is in case of COVID-19, it's a RNA virus.
Mm-hmm.
And RNA virus has got an inherent potential that it keeps on mutating.
Right.
Now, one of the surveys which was conducted by ICMR that showed that 100 people who have been infected despite of the vaccination, 86% of them had Delta variant.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this question is a very problematic in the sense that yes, the new variants may not be effective, and those people who have been vaccinated they may not be protected against the new variants until and unless proven otherwise. Now, having considered that, this is required that which variant is prevalent in which particular community, whether it is Maharashtra or Kerala, we need to see that which particular variant is prevalent.
Right.
Now, for that reason, we need to have state-specific data. As Sir has just mentioned, is about decentralized approach. Now, if you look at the state of Odisha, decentralized approach, if you look at Odisha itself is larger than many developed countries, the state itself. Now, if you go for a state-specific data, that may not be representative of the specific districts, and we have 30 plus districts. Now, in this junction, I'll give you a simple example. Now, for example, I want to measure the wealth of any single individual. Now, for example, in the Indian population, if I make them into 5 different chunks,
right,
starting from the rich quintile, the lowest is the 5th quintile. Now, Mukesh Ambani will be coming in the top quintile, and at the same time, you would be surprised to know, this is as in economic analysis, one of the reports which I have seen, that even I belong to that same category.
Okay.
We need to say that I'm so rich, so that means that India's population is so huge. And making into 5 chunks is not sufficient enough to describe the wealth quintile to which a person belongs to. So having considered that Odisha is so big, Maharashtra is so big, they have their own districts. So instead of averaging out that what is the seroprevalence, we need to have specific district-wise and maybe required sub-district-wise.
Right.
What is the seroprevalence? And accordingly, the local epidemiology we will be able to identify. That means we can identify which particular population is prone and what should be the vaccine rollout mechanisms, the strategy, what should be, and unlocking mechanism, which are the districts or the sub-district level can we do it. So for that reason, this has been emphasized that the decentralized, state-specific, district-specific, and if required, block-specific data is required in order to devise our policy.
Right. Dr. Rao, this is extremely important that you have said, especially I want to underline the local epidemiological data, especially understanding or studying, which part of population is most susceptible. So what has data said? If we talk of your state, are there any parameters that we are seeing that there is a set of population based upon either age or their gender or possibly their genetic information that are more susceptible or at least more vulnerable towards COVID?
Right now it is difficult to assess.
Okay.
For the simple reason that the amount of the sample which has been contributed to the state-specific data is very meager. Smaller sample size, and it is not uniformly distributed across the state.
Okay.
So we need to identify, but nevertheless, we have found that now the vaccination we have not rolled out under 18. And as on today, still the seroprevalence among the under 18 group, the children group, has been substantially achieved.
Okay. Right.
That chunk of the population have already been exposed. So that is the reason what we have, temporarily we have designed that yes, schools can probably be opened, colleges can be opened, of course, with using certain guard.
Got it.
Like social distancing,
absolutely.
50% attendance.
Absolutely.
And all that.
Certainly. Yeah. Social distancing and COVID appropriate behavior is extremely essential. That's what something we keep telling our viewers in episode after episode. That's what even our experts emphasize. Dr. Raman Gangakhedkar, sir, we know, possibly more data and more, further analysis of the data is required so as to understand the facet of which population is more susceptible, or which group is more susceptible towards COVID-19. But sir, I mean, what phenomenon does explain that there are certain states or certain districts that continue to be among the list which are having, high numbers of infection?
Essentially, even if you look at whatever is currently available, there are a few things which perhaps one has to keep at the back of mind. One, the population density is one of the most important driver
Okay.
of this outbreak. Now, second thing which is also important is mobility and migration continue to remain as basic. Now, if you look at what has happened in the first wave has occurred long time back. It's almost 1 year back. And when the first wave was there, you find certain areas were exposed to the infection more, whereas some areas did not have so much of infection. Now, what will happen at that juncture when the first wave was over, when this particular survey, the third survey, sero survey was done, there were no vaccines that were available. So there was a stage that was actually seen in different states, which actually spoke of the vulnerability to acquire infection in the second wave, if at all, if it was to come.
Right.
And then what we started doing was rolling out vaccines. So essentially what has happened, today you find some states having low seroprevalence,
Right.
which, like I talked of, Kerala has about 44%, Maharashtra, I think, has around 46%. And if you look at their daily numbers of new cases, they continue to be higher even today because they were more vulnerable states. Whereas you compare that with Madhya Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh has lesser, but at the same time, when we talk of these states, there is another differentiating factor, and the factor is related to population density
Right.
and mobility.
Absolutely.
So even within the state, what we are getting is perhaps a reflection of what is happening today in the second wave in the rural areas, because largely it's the rural population which is having a severe outbreak at this point in time. The urban areas had their share in terms of numbers as such, and that differential is playing into these numbers that continue to either remain stable or increasing even if the second wave is declining. So everything together is playing an important role when it comes to epidemiology at the level of states as well.
So in that case, Dr. Raman, sir, are we again back to that discourse whether it's rural areas that continue to be more vulnerable if we compare to the urban areas, and that essentially is about resources, about education, about correct information that has been that should be imparted to the patrons in the rural belt?
Absolutely. No, one has to remember that rural areas tend to have lower population density. Almost more than two-thirds of the population of the country lives in rural areas that have lower population density and less mobility compared to what you might see in the urban areas.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
result is very much there that if the infection was not introduced as much in the rural areas in the first wave, a large proportion of the population was extremely vulnerable to acquire it during the second wave. So what you are telling is true, that in the second wave, we have to now focus in those districts where perhaps the vulnerability exists little more, and try to ramp up the healthcare services, try to ensure that diagnostic services are also accessible
Right.
to a large majority of these rural population, and also try to ensure that the community is involved not only for promoting COVID appropriate behavior, but also taking vaccines, because we know the vaccination program in rural area is comparatively having lesser uptake compared to the urban areas.
Right.
So we need to handle at every front.
Right, right. Dr. Rao, in your state, in Odisha, as if I remember, when we spoke last, we were discussing precisely about the rural and urban areas and how approaches are required so as to contain numbers in both the cases. Now, in your state, which has a sizable number of rural belt, how are you dealing with the situation? Are you still having seen numbers increasing in rural areas if you compare to the urban area?
Not really.
Mm-hmm.
The point, what happens is the migration.
Okay.
Now, what is happening? For example, I'll give you a small example.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the capital city, Bhubaneswar and Cuttack, we had a target number. It's about 8 lakh plus cases to be vaccinated. And we have reached almost 9.67 lakhs. Still, the vaccination is incomplete. So, what is happening is people from the nearby areas, they keep on traveling. And Odisha, as on today, Khurda district, the capital district, it's still reporting high number of cases. And moreover, density is high as
Mm-hmm.
well as the migration is also contributing. And the numbers of cases, let it be COVID cases or the vaccination cases,
Right.
both are on the rise. Now, for this, again, serosurveillance has to be specific, geography specific. Like if it is urban area, how the migration is happening, how the population density is happening, and all these things has to be taken into consideration while designing the sampling. The
Right.
sampling design has to be, and Government of India has already given that there has to be a standardized model because the primary purpose of sero survey is that to tell you that what is the trend of the disease.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I compare the sero survey of the 1, 2, and 3 and 4, let us suppose if the methodology is different from each one of them, then I would not be able to come out with a trend of the disease.
Mm-hmm.
This we will be coming up with just a single snapshot view that at a given junction, yes,
Right.
61% or 67% they are protected.
Right.
Now, the trend for that to be active, I mean, the government of India has now, it is the high time to take one step forward, is to strengthen the disease surveillance system.
Mm-hmm.
If it is like a still camera, survey is like a still camera, and surveillance is like a video camera.
Right.
Now, this India has to focus more on, apart from zero surveillance, we have to see the zero surveillance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, zero surveillance is again like this is how we have to deal with the spread of the disease. Well, we sign off on this note, but at the same time, dear viewers, once again, if you heard our experts, please keep listening to all the experts. That is how we have to, that's the only approach that can help us in dealing with this pandemic. The approach has to be scientific. Many thanks, Dr. E. Venkata Rao, for joining us. Many thanks, Dr. Raman Gangakherkar, for once again participating in the show and educating our viewers, educating us as what needs to be done, how do we decode these surveys, how do we understand what is happening in terms of, say, the rising cases and rising number of COVID, and what we need to do. First and last thing, well, get yourself vaccinated, and please do not forget to maintain physical distancing. Do not forget to maintain, or rather keep wearing face masks, and please keep washing your hands. These are small things that can help us in defeating this pandemic. Well, that's it in this edition of IFP. Thank you. Goodbye.